Hey, how's it going out there, everybody? Hope everybody's having a great day. It is Friday night. It is the 24th of January. It has been a long day, let me tell you. I'm in Illinois right now. It is, it's snowing. It's been snowing pretty much, I don't know, about the past hour or two. Been in the rain all day. It turned to snow. I made it farther than I thought I'd make it today, and so I just called it a day. But, I mean, it wasn't too bad when I got off the road, you know, just turning into, like, I thought about if I had an empty cup, I could have held it out the window and, you know, put some of that flavoring in there, and I had a free slushy. That's kind of what was falling out of the sky, so, you know, free slushies if you want them. So what I've been doing this week, this is what this video is going to be about. It's been a pretty good week. I've been running pretty hard. That's why I haven't made any videos through the week. Started off the week in Minneapolis Monday. Took last weekend off. And so I didn't get started till a little later on Monday. So I grabbed a load from Minneapolis off the yard, preloaded. It was like 20,000 pounds. Not a bad load. Cardboard boxes, you know, always in demand. I feel like shipping cardboard boxes from one major city to another is like a logistical fail, because doesn't every major city have a cardboard box factory? Like, how can you not have a cardboard box factory in a metropolitan area? I don't know. I take it. It's a light load. Good stuff for me. Weighed about 20,000 pounds, like I said, maybe a little less. It's been all week since I've done it, so I couldn't tell you the details on it. But picked that up off the yard. That went down to Kansas City. And like I say, there's not a box factory in Kansas City, apparently. So they bring in all the cardboard to Kansas City. So if you need a load of Kansas City, just find some boxes. Haul them over there. You know. The freight you haul is not always glorious. Sometimes you know, you haul cardboard boxes. So, like I say, decent run. Picked it up off the yard Monday, probably around noon. Ran it down there for an 8 a.m. delivery in Kansas City. It's like 450 miles. No deadhead. Love that. Next run I picked up out of Kansas City. I went from Kansas City, Kansas over to Kansas City, Missouri to pick up a load of recycling. I'm not a big fan of hauling recycling, but this load paid pretty good. It was a spot market load, and it paid better than most because of the hassle. And a lot of people won't haul recycling. It was recycled metals. It wasn't... you know, I've hauled a lot of recycled paper, aluminum cans, stuff like that. This was just bales of sheet aluminum, about 40,000 pounds, just a hair under 40,000 pounds. It paid better, but therefore it should pay better because it's a messy load, number one. They did a really good job of cleaning out the trailer at the final stop. I appreciate that because they did unload it. Well, before I get to that. Took them about 2 hours to get it loaded. I picked it up at a, you know, just, you know, not a very huge facility, but, you know, decent sized recycling facility there. Took about 2 hours to load it. I always set a timer on my phone as soon as I get somewhere and I get checked in for 2 hours when it's a spot market load and it's live load. Because, you know, I want to make sure when my 2 hours is up, I'm getting paid. And company policy is if you expect detention pay, you have to call in at 2 hours and let them know you've been there for 2 hours. So they can make phone calls, so they can, you know, get you moving, hopefully. As they were handing me the paperwork, the 2 hour alarm went off. So they got all the free they could out of me. You know. I don't know. From doing all the reefer stuff I did and all those crazy long detention times, you know, I've learned to just make use of my detention time. I don't think of it as a negative as much anymore. You know, everybody needs a break. if I'm not tired, you know, I'll work on paperwork or something. I try to make use of that time and not just, you know, because if you just sit there and complain about it, it just wears on you. So I try not to do that. So got loaded, ran it over there. That picked up Tuesday. No, wait, I ran that down. Yeah, Tuesday. That picked up Tuesday for a Wednesday morning delivery in the south side of Chicago. And boy, that was in the hood. That was a rough delivery spot. I see why that load paid more after I got it done. Nobody else wants to mess with that. I would say every carrier up to us had already went and did that load and figured out what it was about, and they didn't want to do it again. So that's probably why that ends up on the spot market. You know, fool me once, you know the old saying. I think I know that saying. Yeah, but anyway, so I get to the delivery spot in the south side of Chicago. I mean, in the hood, like, you know, right there off 94 to 131st. Anybody familiar with that area knows where I'm talking about. You know, I-94 won't even go through that neighborhood. You know, it's like going, 94's going, what, east, and then all of a sudden it basically does like a 90-degree turn, the freeway does, to avoid that neighborhood. And I don't blame it, because from here on out, I will avoid that neighborhood. The place I went to was absolutely, possibly the worst facility I have been to in a long, long time. Potholes literally 2 foot deep, you know, as wide as the truck, like you can't avoid them. Just an absolute, every truck that ran in and out of there that I've seen, like the rollback trucks and stuff like that, you know, for the recycling, was just destroyed. And I was thinking, you should not bring a decent truck in here. I mean, I hit some potholes that I'm surprised didn't bust tires, you know, like, no exaggeration, you know, 6 to 8 inches deep, like, on the edge of the pothole. You just fall off. And it was kind of hard to negate. Let me learn how to talk real quick. Hard to navigate because the water was frozen on those potholes, so you couldn't guess how deep they were, because all the snow from the weekend was melting, so all the potholes were full of water, and they were iced over because it had got down to, like, you know, 20-something degrees the night before. It was ridiculous. You know, I told dispatch that, you know, if that's the only thing available next time I go to Kansas City, just let me sit in Kansas City. I'm not a fan of recycling loads to begin with, because a lot of times they empty out the trailer and then they just look at you like you're crazy, you know, when you ask them if they're going to, you know, sweep that out. Or, you know, the way I look at that, that's not my product on there. That's your product. You should get it all off, you know, when you unload the trailer. This facility, you know, they did pretty good with it. They at least swept it out, you know, because I knew it was going to be a mess, because those bales of aluminum, you know, they were pretty rough bales. So they swept it out. I got out of there. The truck was absolutely filthy, because that whole entire lot was, you know, like 3 inches of just fresh mud. And I really don't like doing stuff like that, because you know, you run over stuff like in places like that, and you know, they're not gonna pay for that. They're gonna be like, well, why'd you run over it? And I'm like, well, because it's a piece of metal laying in 3 inches of mud. I didn't see it, you know. The last time I did one of those, I ended up with a piece of steel wire sticking out of a drive tire, and luckily it was patchable. But I don't like running around with a bunch of patches on tires, you know. It's you know, you pay good money for tires, you want them to last. So that load kind of made me a little ill, but you know, we got it done, had to do what I had to do. I'm not a big fan of going to Kansas City because we don't have a lot of customers in that area. And, you know, so that load was live load on both ends, live load, live unload. 2 hours on the front end, 2.5 hours on the back end. Yeah, not a very productive load. Not too bad, but not productive. 526 miles on that, 28 miles of deadhead. So it did have low deadhead. It did pay better, like I said, than you know, some of the contract stuff. All miles, it was above 225 a mile. It was around like probably 240 a mile. All miles, but like I say, they probably have to put that premium on there just to get people, you know, interested. Because when, you know, both places have recycling in their name, it's kind of a turnoff. It is to me, at least. So came out of Chicago, came over to Romeoville, and grabbed a load going to Wisconsin. This load was heavy. It was about 41,000 pounds. And I turned it into a team operation on that load. And what I mean by that is I picked up in Romeoville. There was a company driver that his truck was broke down in Peru, Illinois. And they called me and they said, hey, this guy's truck's broke down. You know, this was... what day was this? This was Wednesday, and they said his truck wasn't going to get worked on till the beginning of next week, and they wanted to get him up to the yard to get him in a new truck. So I don't like doing stuff like that. You know, this isn't Greyhound. This is a Peterbilt. So I don't know. I waited out for a little while, and then you know, when I realized they weren't going to hook him up like they should, which, you know, I gave them crap about it. I was like, why don't you rent the guy a car? If his truck's broke down and you're trying to get him back to Minnesota to get him in a new truck, why don't you break down and just rent the guy a car so he can haul all his stuff up here to the new truck? Because, you know, my thought is, if he rides with me, he can't bring everything he's got. And then you're going to have to turn around and find him a load or bobtail him all the way back to Peru, you know. It's going to be a logistical nightmare to get the guy's stuff, you know, out of that truck into this truck, and or you know, out of his broke down truck into his new truck. So finally, like, you know, after I got loaded in Romeoville, I called and I said, hey, is the guy still in Peru? And they said, yeah, he's still sitting there. And I said, all right, well, if he's willing to drive, I'll swing by and pick him up. And I wasn't trying to be you know, I wasn't trying to be like mean or, you know, just make him drive to make him drive. My thought was, I don't have the hours to get back to the yard. I said, I can get pretty close to the drop in Wisconsin, but I can't make it back to the yard. And I said, I have storage on my top bunk. And, you know, I said, if y'all want to get him a hotel, you know, that's fine or whatever. But I said I would prefer just to drive this load in, drop it, and then go to the yard after that. And, you know, his new truck was waiting on him at the yard. So I said, well, he can just hop in his new truck that's sitting there, you know, with the key in it. And, you know, that way, because I said, you know, I don't have two beds. So we got to either get back to the yard. And so they called him. He said he was fine with driving the last couple hours of the load and to get him back to a truck. So I said, hey, I'm on my way. Went to Peru, grabbed the guy up. All right, guy. He lives down near where I grew up in Tennessee. So we had a little bit in common. You know, it's always nice to you know, be able to talk with somebody about the company and how they operate, you know, the company drivers versus the owner operators and that type of thing. So, and he ended up driving 240 miles of the load, and he, you know, I got a stop-off pay. I made him put a stop-off pay in there for stopping and picking him up because it was about 50 miles out of route, which they added, you know, some money to the load for that. They paid me basically the contract rate on the extra 58 miles, I think it was. So it definitely made it worth it, because not only it lengthened the trip out 58 miles, so I got paid the rate on that. But the big win was he drove 240 miles. So I advanced the truck 240 miles without having to use my clock. And, you know, I woke up at the yard. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, when I say woke up, I didn't sleep while he drove. But, you know, the next morning, I was already at the yard. Load dropped, ready to go. So it did advance my week a little bit. That's, you know, so it's kind of win-win. You know, he got to his truck. He got to get going Thursday morning. I was already at the yard Thursday morning. And I grabbed a load off the yard Thursday morning. Really good load. We get a bunch of these. I like to do these anytime I can. It goes over to Ohio. It's a little over 600 miles, this load. And they're typically under 25,000. This one was 19 and some change. They pay pretty good. They're drop and hook on both ends. They're ASAP delivery. I grabbed it up Thursday morning and I ran it. I delivered it last night about 11:30. So they're like one-day runs, and they're light, and it's drop and hook on both ends. And the customer in Ohio lets you park at their facility after you drop the loaded trailer. And so, you know, I love those. It's very productive when you can get it done like that. So then out of Ohio, I ran over to the Toledo area this morning and grabbed the load I have now. I have a load of envelopes on here. So going back to Minnesota. You know, it's not, like I said, everything you haul is not glorious, but, you know, it's got to be moved. People want it, you know, they want it moved. So it's a load of envelopes. It's like those bubble wrap padded envelopes. It only weighs 20,000 pounds. It's like a hair over 20,000 pounds. Like 20,300. Picked that up this morning. That's running all the way back to almost North Dakota. So, you know, I ran most of it. I ran a good chunk of it today. I got to Illinois. I got about 6 hours, and I'll be at the house tomorrow, probably around noon. This delivers Sunday, so I'll have to get up Sunday morning. Luckily, instead of real early delivery, it's 11 o'clock delivery, so I can chill at the house Saturday from like noon all the way around to, you know, Sunday morning. I'll get up and run this over there. It'll probably be like a 2-hour run, maybe a little bit more, but it delivers at 11, so I ain't got to get up super early to make it happen. And we'll see where we go from there. Overall, not a bad week. I think my total miles were around, after I get this done, the one I'm on now, going to western Minnesota. Once I get this one done, I'll be at close to 3,000 for the week. Had some decent paying loads in there this week. Fuel was okay. Fuel prices seem like they are going down a little bit. You know, I'm catching fuel in Wisconsin right now for like $2.69 a gallon pretty consistently. So, you know, that's always a plus. Fuel mileage has been down this week, not doing as good on fuel mileage. The heavy recycling load was garbage. That was heavy and into the wind. I think I did like 6.2 on that one. The heavy load out of Romeoville to Wisconsin was in the rain and snow, and it was heavy, so I did, I think it was like at 6.8 on that one. This one here I'm doing okay on right now. Drove it in the rain all day. I mean, I feel like Charlie Brown. I got this storm just following me. But doing pretty good on the mileage on it. I think I'm at like 7.5 right now, about halfway through it. So that should help even out the week a little bit. Still going to be a subpar fuel week though. But overall, productive week. been moving, been staying busy. You know, not perfect loads, not the loads I would always choose to do, but that's just the name of the game. You know, you don't get to pick. You know, you don't get to pick them. I mean, you might get to pick them, but you might get to pick which one you pick, but you know, you don't get to pick what you're hauling at all times, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You know, sometimes if you want to keep moving, you got to haul that recycling load. If you want to get out of a certain city with, you know, with some change in your pocket, you have to haul some recycling every now and again, going to south side of Chicago. I think from here on out, I'll look a little better next time. I'll wait it out and see what happens. See how, you know, see how much worse it can get. But, anyway, guys, I'm going to hop off here now. That's kind of been my week. I appreciate everybody watching. Be sure to check out my last video of the Peterbilt 579 I drive review. And overall, guys, you know, that video may make you think I hate this truck, but I'm just pointing out the cons of the truck. Honestly, if the truck had a 9, 10, 13 speed manual in it, that truck would probably be one of my favorite trucks I've ever driven. It really would. It's a good truck. It just, the automated manual 10 speed in it is garbage. But anyway, guys, I appreciate everybody watching. If you stuck through this far, I really do appreciate it. Be sure to share, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff with the video. And until next time, everybody, take care of each other out there. Bye.